In the last videos, we looked at some of the special articulations available: legato samples, release samples, and round robin samples. But additionally, embedded into the sound sources for the electric basses and acoustic basses, there are two channels for sound, and they're usually an amp and a mic, or in the case of this electric bass here, the pickup and the amp. And what we can do is mix and match these sources, the amp, the pickup, the release noises, and get a blend for all of them together. And we can get into these from the main page controls here, but we can also get to it in the edit page in the sound source zoom. Just like we had access to the release level and the legato samples, we can get those sound source mix sliders available here for the direct amp signal or direct from the pickup, and these mirror the controls on the main page. Now we're going to look at the main page controls because these are all customizable. They're not the same for every instrument. The way Trillion is programmed is that the controls that are most commonly needed or used to shape and sculpt the sound for the specific instrument are set up here on the front main page for easy access, but they're all customizable. Let's start by looking at the amp and the pickup. So I'm going to play a little part now, and we can mix and match and blend the different signal levels from these three sound sources or parts of the sound source. So that's more pickup, less amp. I'll solo the part and we can hear it in isolation. So you see that you can really sculpt the sound or the tone of the sound just by blending the two channels that are embedded in the sound source with the release noises. Now again, these are different for different instruments. Let's go in and load in an acoustic bass. And you'll see that once it's loaded in, I'll go for this one, full range vintage, the controls on the main page will update to reflect parameters that are relevant for this instrument. So here we have the mic and the pickup directly on the bass, and we can blend those together with the noises. And the other controls also are unique, and this pertains to some plugins that are in the effects rack. But let's listen to this bass. So that's more mic. And I can turn that down and put more pickup up. I like it better with more mic, I think. But the idea is that you can sculpt the sound by blending the different channels that are embedded in the sound sources. And there are some buttons here. This will turn off the plugin. In the effects rack, we have an A and B effects rack, and this pertains to effects that we can load uniquely for layer A and then uniquely for layer B, and then a common rack that we can load for the entire instrument that applies to both of the layers. So for example here, when I turn that on, you'll see that this vintage compressor is on. So these are customizable. We're going to look at doing this in the next video, but I just want to show you how this main interface works. And for synth basses, the parameters are even different. Since there's no direct miking, let's load that one in. We can get other parameters here that'll affect the sound on the front. And here we have filter, and this is common to have filter parameters on the front, but there's other ones available as well in different patches. I'll load another one in just to see. So we had all filter on top there, and now with this one, we have filter on top as well, and we have different parameters here, again, pertaining to the plugins that are in the effects rack, but that's optional. They can pertain to anything. Now, there are some common controls here. I just want to show you briefly. We have a part level control here, and this adjusts the level for this specific part. We have an octave setting here where we can go plus or minus up to 2 octaves from this drop-down menu, and that applies to the whole patch. And we have a global button here, and what this means is if you have the same sound loaded into multiple parts, you're able to affect parameter changes here, and when this is on, it'll apply to the same parameter in all the other parts, provided that it's the same settings on the main page controls in the other parts, but make a change here and it'll apply to all the other parts as well. And we have an audition button here. And that's great if you're scrolling through patches from here, you can audition them quickly with that. And we have 2 different panes here for viewing. We have an image view where we get an icon pertaining to the instrument, and we have an info page here where we get info on the sound that's loaded in, and that's a subset of what we get when we're in the edit page in the sound source browser. We can get other info over here, just a little bit more detail. So I want to show you how this main page works in this video. In the next video, we're going to dig in and we're going to look at how to customize these controls.